Welcome back to another exciting episode of our BNI San Diego podcast. I'm really excited today. I've got a great co-host, and that's Russ Mehnert. Russ Mehnert is an executive director in Pennsylvania for both North, South, Central Pennsylvania. Russ has been an executive director now for just over 4 years. Russ has been actually started as a BNI member. Gosh, it's been 17 plus years now? Russ?
17 plus, yeah.
17. Just a little bit of time in BNI. And I believe you were in for the payroll services, right?
That's right. Payroll services was my category as a member.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And Russ has 2 amazing daughters and a beautiful bride named Rebecca.
Yeah.
And today's topic, we're going to be talking about the referral flow in the power team process or during the power team process. So, Russ, I have a question for you. Let's start out first and foremost by talking about the difference between a contact sphere and a power team. I think we have a lot of people that kind of get those confused because sometimes people just don't know how to describe the difference between the two.
Yeah, sure. And let me add to that when I was a member, I had a really strong business-to-business power team in my chapter, which made my experience in BNI really productive and a fantastic experience. So the difference as I define a contact sphere versus a power team is that, contact spheres on paper, and many of our members have seen the contact sphere grid labeling all of the categories into what we call contact sphere or power team columns. So the difference, though, is that contact spheres are the members in a chapter that may have the potential to refer to one another. So on paper, there is a potential that these members can refer more often to others in their contact sphere. To take it to the next level, what makes it more powerful is that power teams are those lists of members that not only have this ability to refer, but they also have a high level of commitment to refer to each other. So they understand how the business, flows in their industry. And they're really, members in power teams are really committed to going above and beyond and out of their way to generate referrals.
Would you say that they're much more intentional with their time with this particular grouping of individuals?
Very intentional, and very proactive on generating referrals for each other.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So, as a BNI member, if someone's kind of thinking or watching, and what I love about this particular topic, like all of our topics, is it's very applicable to everything that we do in BNI, but it's also applicable to what we do outside of BNI.
Sure.
Right. So, if I'm a BNI member and I'm thinking, you know what, Russ, I'm already in BNI. That's what I'm here for, right? Is getting referrals. And why do I need to do, why a power team?
Yeah, well, because of that intentionality, right? I mean, if you've got a really well-oiled and well-working power team, you're going to be able to just increase the amount of referral activity sometimes 2, 3, maybe even tenfold in a power team. So, the difference between the general members of your chapter, most of those referrals will be reactive referrals. In a power team, because of the intentionality and the commitment of members in a power team, you're creating opportunities for each other. So it's a really higher level commitment. And in a power team, because you have the ability to refer, because you share similar clients, you have a similar target market, that both the ability and now the commitment exists, which brings this magical formula together.
And are we just letting anybody into the power team? Is there, some guidelines or anything in that from that standpoint?
Yeah, well, the biggest guideline is, do the members of the power team share a similar client base? Are they targeting the same customer market? And even more specifically, are they having similar conversations that will help the business flow from one power team partner to another? And that takes intentionality. It takes understanding the flow of business through the power team, and knowing that your members can actually control that flow of business when you have that commitment to do so.
Oh, I love that. Well, then with that, why don't we really kind of go right into talking through that referral flow when you're in a power team?
Yeah, so the easiest referral flow to illustrate, because everybody's familiar with this, if you've bought or sold a home, you have experienced the flow of business through a real estate power team, right? And so if you take a look at the typical flow, first you need something to purchase, right? So you need the house, right? So the realtor is primarily who you start with in a real estate transaction, right? Realtor finds the house, and the realtor asks the question of the buyer, do you have the money to buy this house? And they say yes, no, maybe, and either way, the realtor then asks, can I introduce you to a recommended mortgage person? And so from there, once you have the house and you have the money, then you have to get an inspection, and you refer to the home inspector in order to close the house. You then need to have title insurance and do title work and have a closing agent. And then the bank will only allow you to make the purchase if it's insured. So you need a homeowner's insurance agent, right? So the flow goes from the house to the money to the legal work to the insurance. And that's a flow through a power team, right? Another example, and this is where I experienced from my perspective in business to business in a power team, was payroll services. So you could look at the life cycle of a new business, right? Starting up a new business owner.
They go through a lot of different things. In a lot of times what we find is, let's say a sole proprietor, the first thing that they want to do, they're excited about their business. They want to get out and market it. So they go to some marketing folks, and they search for who can do some marketing, get my name and my brand out there. Get my business cards made, get some flyers made, those types of things.
Yeah. Now, a really strategic business marketer can also ask that entrepreneur, that sole proprietor, well, are you going to set up a legal entity? Are you planning on hiring employees? And if so, the next step, the flow through a business to business team would be, can I introduce you to business attorney to get your legal entity, right? The accountant to get your taxes formed, the HR person if you're planning to do some hiring. So there is a flow, and those conversations, one can lead right to another. And that's the commitment that power team partners have for each other.
So in part of that flow process, one of the things that I caught was you've also got to learn how to ask the right questions of the person that's in front of you. Because in order for something to flow, there's got to be movement into a new direction, right? So you've got to be able to ask the questions, as you just said, with, the new business owner. As a new business owner, what are some of the other things, or as you identified, what are those other things? What's the next step in this evolution, this process?
Yeah, and that's the intentionality of power team members, is asking your fellow power team partners, what are those questions that I can ask when I'm dealing with my customers in order to see if they are a good fit for you, in order to see how I can flow them in your direction, because they ultimately need your services as well.
Absolutely. Now, here's one for you, because I know that this can be an issue. A little while ago, you started to talk about the element of a target market, right?
Yes.
Making sure that we all have the same target market. Is it possible for the realtor or the mortgage or someone in that flow process to have a different target market? And then what do you do?
Yeah. So that when we talk about the ability to refer, you only have the ability to refer when you're talking to your partner's next potential customer. So if your customer base, your target base is different than the other business to business, right? Then you don't actually have the ability to necessarily refer them, because we talk about being specific and knowing your niche and your target market. If your niche is different than my niche, even though we're both offering business services, we're not necessarily on a power team together because we're serving different communities, we're serving different markets. So, again, we use that realist example is a really just it's easy one to visualize. Let's say you have a realtor who specifically only wants to do like $1 million deals. They only want to sell $1 million houses. They're doing $1 million listings, right?
Yeah.
Urban, in city, in town type of
living in San Diego. That's the average size house right there is $1 million.
Yeah, well, in central Pennsylvania, it's not, right? So it's a different target market. And, I'd recommend members know your target market and ask for what you want. If you only want, $1 million or $5 million listings, then that's what you're asking for, right? That's your target market. Now, if you have a mortgage producer who specializes and has a passion for, first-time home buyers and young FHA types of mortgages, these are not $1 million and $5 million houses, right? Typically a lower price point. Therefore, it's a different target market. So the $1 million realtor is not going to refer to the first-time home buyer mortgage producer because they're just serving different target markets.
So that's a really good point. And it just reminded me of a question. Why is it important to understand and know your target market? Because it's amazing how many people I've come across that when you ask them, do you know your target market? They almost look dumbfounded. It's like, what is that? Why is that important to know who is your target market?
Yeah, and it's important not just in BNI, but it's important in your business planning, right? In your marketing, in your advertising. Who's your audience? Right?
Yeah.
Who do you want your message to get out in front of? And so in BNI, it's very similar in that know your target market, because then you can surround yourself in your chapter with power team partners who share the same target market, offering slightly different services, but they share the same target market. And when you know that, then you just talk about what's the conversation to get this target market from your service to my service to the next power team partner service.
So then it sounds like you're also being very intentional on who you invite into your room, who you invite in to your chapter, because when you're looking at it from the power team perspective, it's not just about inviting anyone in that role. You want to qualify them. You want to be able to be a part of that vetting process on, if I'm the realtor looking for, $1 million, $5 million plus, properties, we want to make sure that the mortgage person coming in, that's a very similar target market to what they want or to what they want as well. That changes our perspective when we're looking at inviting people in.
Yeah, when you're inviting a prospective member to your chapter with the hopes of them being on your power team, then that's a defining factor. Do they serve the same target market? And better yet, to flip that, inviting the folks who do serve your target market, say, I would like you not just in my chapter, I want you to be part of my power team. And that's a really intentional invite, because we share the same target market. I have referrals to give you, and let's build that relationship.
That's a much more promising conversation than, hey, why don't you come and join my network or be a part of my chapter? When you're that specific and people know that, my goal is to build a relationship with you, that you're a part of my flow process. Boy, oh boy, talk about a different conversation when you're inviting people in. Much more inviting.
Very inviting, very intentional. And when you're taking a look at your power team, if you understand the flow of how business will move through your group, if you have any holes in that power team, I refer to that as business flowing out of the room, out of the chapter. Right? These are holes in the bucket. These are broken links in the chain. So you want to have strategic members that continue that flow from one power team partner to another.
Oh, that's a fantastic way to put it. And I know that we're coming to an end on our time, but I'm looking forward to Russ having you back on to discuss many other topics. This is one that's very applicable to all of our whether it's BNI San Diego, BNI Pennsylvania, or BNI Australia, this is a really good, valid dialogue and something that we need to think about and be much more intentional about when we're inviting people in, if they're the right fit. Do they fit within my power team? And when we start to look at that and have that intentionality when we're inviting people in, it's a completely different conversation. And now the invite in is not like, oh, we just need a seat filled. No, I'm looking for the right person to be able to do business with, to be a part of my team in that flow process. That's awesome. Russ, I really appreciate you being with us here today. Any final thoughts on this process for our listeners?
Well, like even as you mentioned, whether you're in Pennsylvania, or if you're California, or if you're in Australia, although the price points might be different, the target markets might be different, the demographics might be different, the concept is the same, and it applies pretty much everywhere in the world.
That's some of the beauty of BNI, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to being back with you next week. Stay tuned. And again, Russ, you are invited back anytime. We loved having you. Thank you again for joining us. I believe you're about 3 hours ahead of us. So I hope the rest of my day goes as well as your day is going right now.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me. And it would be my pleasure to come back and do this again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.